Good morning, everybody.
Morning, welcome to the Fireside Chat. Can you feel the glow?
Yeah, hopefully we can warm everybody up a little bit here today.
Absolutely.
So we're going to spend a little bit of time today just having a conversation about how we're seeing enterprise AI adoption across Europe and some of the things we've been working on in the region, but also as companies as well on the journey that we're taking to work with our customers and within our own organizations as well. So, Dell is a big partner of CoreWeave's today. So, we've been working together to bring GB200, GB300 to the market, first to market around the world. They've been a really important partner of ours, and also in Europe, we've been deploying multiple regions over the last year. We're going to talk about this a little bit too. But I think the most important thing we want to cover today is, when I think about Dell, they were at the beginning of the computing revolution back in the 80s, so founded in 84, and I think around 5 or 7 years after the computing industry really launched, Dell were the first to really bring low-cost computing to consumers, to enterprises, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to hear about the journey. And Adrian's been on a little bit, and we'll tell you about ours and how we're thinking about Europe as well, and enterprise adoption across Europe. So, do you want to do a quick intro?
Thank you, Mike. Adrian McDonald. I have the pleasure of running Dell Technologies, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Delighted to be here today. Thank you to everyone for coming out.
Perfect, and I should introduce myself. I didn't start with that, but Mike Mattacola, so I lead CoreWeave's international business. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that Dell have been around since Michael Dell, I think, launched from university,
right.
Dell back in '84, about 7 years into the computing revolution, and you've been in the game ever since. So can you just tell us a little bit about how you're thinking through transforming your own business today with AI, but also how you're thinking about the market and particularly enterprise adoption across Europe?
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Look, to start, let me just make this statement. The benefits of AI are real. We see this every single day. I am seeing many industries transformed, many government bodies transformed through AI in Europe. We're seeing dramatic improvements in healthcare. I personally believe that most human ailments will be curable within the next 10 years. We're seeing massive potential improvements in government services. I don't know any ministries who believe they have too much money, or any ministries who believe that citizen services will have less requirements going forward. So how do I deliver better citizen services at lower cost? It is AI, and we're seeing some dramatic advances there. We're seeing, given industries, some that we work together on, like the quant industry, quant traders, which for me is almost like the ultimate example of how people are driving business with AI, where the trade is discovered through AI, the trade is initiated by AI, the trade is managed during its life cycle by AI, the trade is closed by AI, and then the trade is, all of the back-end paperwork is handled by AI as well. No human involvement at all. The humans are there to make sure that the AI is cared for, looked after, cybersecure, etc. So you and I see this on a daily basis. And then when it comes to Dell Technologies, turns out we appear to be customer zero. So we are an AI company today, and I can tell you that everything is different. I'm glad to say that Michael Dell and the board have reimagined how we provide services in the business, and that's the most important journey, is actually through the power of AI, how can I deliver services differently? How can I deliver my processes differently? We've gone through that transition over the last 2 to 3 years, and I can tell you everything is fundamentally different. And one outcome of that is something that all CEOs in Europe want to talk to us about. In Dell Technologies, we have broken the sales growth, cost growth equilibrium. So by Q2, sales up 19%, cost down 4%. That's very unusual, and in history has almost never happened, whilst driving better customer satisfaction. more customer loyalty, better customer service, whilst achieving significant sales growth and cost down, and that's driven through AI, and that, I think, is an example of where this whole thing is going.
Are there any particular customers or use cases in Europe that you've been very involved in, that you're really proud of, with a really tangible example for everybody here today on the impact it's made?
Yeah, so I mean, I've referenced some of again, we both work in the finance industry, and there are some big movements in European finance and finance around the world. There are some easy win use cases. The easy win use cases include software development. So you can develop software fundamentally more quickly, utilizing AI assist, utilizing developer assist software, utilizing natural language. You can break down the processes of software development, and we are helping companies to significantly develop productivity there. For us, it means our product development cycles have come down from 2.5 years to 9 to 12 months, for example.
You have to keep up with NVIDIA.
There's that, right? So
moving
literally.
at the speed of light.
Right. So, likewise, look, customer service, I think most people are into that next best action, go to market, clearly from a sales perspective, clearly also things like documentation. Yep. You can make a better use of your private data, you can make better use of understanding your customers, marketing to your customers, and you can do it in a more efficient way than you were ever doing before. So those are some of the really easy use cases.
So you spend a lot of time in boardrooms and with CEOs and executives running companies across Europe today. What are they talking to you about? What's on their mind? What are the challenges that they're trying to overcome? And how are you supporting them? And the final point, I mean, ultimately, the revolution that we're in now is going to be and is powered by compute. So, how are they thinking about that, and how are they looking for your help?
That's a great question. So I will say one word has come through now in all the CEO conversations, all boardroom conversations. They say to me, Adrian, I am the CEO, I must have control. I must have control of my data. I must be able to deliver the security of my data. I need to know which legal jurisdiction it's in. I need to be able to have the compliance levels I need. I need the performance levels I need. I need the cybersecurity levels that I need. And I need the cost to work for me today and tomorrow. And therefore, that need for control is shaping how people are investing in AI going forward.
Yeah, okay, great.
So Mike, a question back to you. The world is in a great state of change, and you would see, how in Europe are people looking at AI build versus buy?
So if you think about when we were setting up our business in Europe, deciding to come to Europe 2 years ago, Europe had historically been running about 60% to 70% of workloads on-prem. And the rest in the cloud, and typically that was driven by concerns around the partners that were available to them in Europe, but also sensitivity of data, but also be able to own their own destiny as well, having access to capacity and resources to work with. What we're obviously seeing now with the technology moving so fast in the market, NVIDIA is launching new products every 18 to 24 months. Every time a new product is launched, the cost is reduced significantly. And the performance is moving forward at a pace we've just never seen before. So, when I think about the major change in terms of whether you build or buy, people are recognizing that you don't want to be stuck on old assets, old technology. If your finance team, lots of you in enterprises today have to go and ask your finance team to give you money to support a new project, a new innovation, new R&D. And if they're asking you to run an asset for 7 to 10 years, the reality is within 2 years, your asset is far out of date, and you could be anywhere between 5 to 30 times slower in terms of the performance of your compute for the workloads you're running. The other piece that's really important with that as well is, with those performance gain, the cost is coming down. Every 18 months, we're seeing a huge drop in the cost to run workloads on the latest infrastructure. So for us, the build or buy decision, if you have incredibly sensitive workloads, then you probably should be on-prem to help you sleep at night, but I think everything else, realistically, you should look at running in the cloud, but also running on the latest technology available, because you're saving money every 18, 24 months.
Yeah, and Mike, look, just on behalf of everyone, let me just say a huge thank you to yourself, the boardroom of CoreWeave, for your immense investments in European IT. We greatly appreciate it. Maybe a few words on what you've built so far, and also maybe how will you keep the differentiation of your services in CoreWeave to the market going forward?
Yeah, so I'm a European, and I was asked to come and do this job and build our business in Europe, and I'd spent a lot of time in Asia and the US, and was always a little bit frustrated at the pace of things in Europe, so I was excited to take this opportunity to come to Europe and build a business. But most importantly, it was pretty clear that European enterprises and startups, anybody trying to deploy AI in the region, didn't have access to the latest technology. So typically, European companies were at least 2 years behind in getting access to the latest technology. So the mission for us when we came here and launched our business in 2024 was to get the latest tech in the hands of Europeans as quickly as possible. And the story from then, we launched our first data center in Q4 of 2024. We now have, around a year later, 8 data center regions across Europe, across Spain, across Sweden, Norway. We have a UK presence. We'll be launching shortly a Denmark presence in Finland, more capacity in Spain and the Nordics, to keep up with demand in Europe and make sure, again, we're getting the latest technology in the hands of Europeans as quickly as possible. And I like to think we've played a role to help accelerate other companies doing the same thing and breaking the problem that Europeans don't have access to the latest tech in the region.
And then more specifically, the market will make their choices on how they want to deploy their AI going forward. Why specifically CoreWeave today and tomorrow?
So ultimately, what we're working on today, so we started our business, we grew up with some of the largest labs in the world, the OpenAIs, the Microsofts. Mistral obviously is a huge customer of ours here in Paris. We were supporting them to train large language models and deploy their applications to the market. How things have changed for us now, so ultimately enterprises need to work with ideally a single partner to be able to understand how to deploy AI successfully in their company, but also have somebody that can help them along the journey that can make their project successful as well. So one thing for me, going back in my career working in Europe, so oftentimes I was pretty much forced to work with some kind of consulting firm to either work on R&D or new technology and bring it to market, and the struggle I always had is they weren't necessarily experts. So what we're building with our platform is an expert platform where you get access to the technology, but with the recent acquisitions of Weights and Biases on the model layer on Monolith, recently announced OpenPipe and others, we're actually bringing into our cloud the expertise to be able to go to an industrial company, understand their data, understand their products, and physically help them build solutions and deploy them on our cloud ultimately. So they're getting the expert advice on how to go from zero to a product, but also to be able to run it on the CoreWeave cloud on the latest technology in the most competitive way, but also in Europe.
And Mike, what are you seeing in the changing nature of workloads? What are people looking for right now as they move to inferencing? What are their preferences? What's the main trends here?
So I think in Europe, typically people are going down the open source route and then understanding some cases where they have sensitive workloads, they're not. They're going to build on their own. But I mean, if you take the example of having Mistral here in Europe, you've got a partner that understands deeply how to build these products. They can help you, they can support your journey, and you can build with them. I think, but typically we're seeing people go down the open source path. Obviously, people are running lots of POCs and trying to understand how it can work for them. and then looking to scale. And if you look at the cost of trying to run a project on open source technology, maybe you can start with around 100,000 euros or something. You can deploy something meaningful at that. If you need to train your own model from the ground up, it's going to be really expensive. It's going to be increments of 10 million euros plus, plus, plus. So I think the typical trend is people want to make sure the technology works for them. They can get a return on investment. So they're starting with open source and then potentially looking to develop their own models and applications as well.
Yeah. Look, both you and I, Mike, we're very focused on the health and the success of Europe. We're at Adopt AI. What would be your message to the audience on where AI is today and the imperative to have a proactive plan to drive AI in all organizations across Europe?
So I'm going to go back to our mission again a little bit. So our mission was to deploy the latest compute in Europe. Everything starts with compute. You can't do AI without compute. So the fantastic thing today is that we now have the technology in Europe readily available for everybody to come and use. The next part is we need to have some courage to jump in and do the work, do the project. So you can sit for years discussing and debating how much money it's going to cost, the resources you need. But what we're actively deploying here and our partners are deploying here is the ability to actually build in Europe. And we really need to take the plunge. So if we don't, accelerate the pace of trying to deploy AI across Europe, we're going to get so far behind. I think in 5 or 10 years, you'll start to see legacy companies that have been here for a long time that aren't adopting AI, they will disappear. Startups will come, startups will take over. But if we don't keep deploying the infrastructure and going for it and trying to deploy this technology in Europe, we are going to get further and further behind, and none of us can afford for that. We want to be, this is the single largest GDP accelerator opportunity we have in Europe since the Industrial Revolution. And we need to grab it with both hands and move as quickly as possible.
And then look, I think it's about ambition, ultimately. My message to everyone here would be, what are your ambitions for your organization? Be it a public organization, a private organization, and how can you drive those ambitions through AI? I'll tell you, in our organization, things have changed entirely. 1/3 of activities that I used to do before, only 3 years ago, things that I had done every day for the previous 34, 35 years, I don't do anymore. AI does them. I don't do supply chain. I don't do sales forecasting. I don't do margin forecasting. I don't do services forecasting. HR is entirely different. All other support services are entirely different and are AI assisted. And the benefit for us has included the fact that myself and my management team have reclaimed 1/3 of our time. And if you look at how you can drive more business, turns out that's actually very useful. So I do think this whole thing about reimagining your business. Please talk to someone who has the experience here. We spend a lot of time with CEOs and boards on how they think about this, how they tool for it, how they cleanse their data and make sure their data is ready for AI, and how they choose the right strategy, including great partners like CoreWeave, to go execute that strategy in the market.
So question going back to you as well. So pretty much what you asked me. So what do you think about most in Europe in terms of how the region needs to approach deploying AI successfully and quickly to keep up with the rest of the world?
So as we all know in the room, Europe has immense capabilities, immense skills, immense assets. We have to press the button. I think most boardrooms I deal with are pressing the button. I think everyone has their favorite training workloads. They're moving to inferencing now in certain of those workloads. We need to go faster. We need to press the button, we need to commit, and we need to commit to the quite different business model that AI allows us to have going forward to achieve that extra agility, to get more customer loyalty, develop products more quickly, gain more sales, and take out a ton of costs. I'll also say, look, by 2030, we believe that over 90% of all the workloads in the world will be AI workloads. So the most of the workloads that we have today will be legacy, in effect. So ultimately, if you are not getting to that outcome now, you're going to find it very hard to compete with an AI company. They'll know your customers better than you. They will be able to develop products more quickly than you. They can get to new markets more quickly than you, and they'll have a fundamentally lower cost base. So let's press the button and let's move forward.
Yeah, I think you have an incredible use case. If you look at Dell, it's a public company, you can see the numbers, you can see the growth. So to be growing revenue as quickly as they are, but also increasing margins as well. So clearly something different is happening. And the way they're adopting technology to drive this is a great use case. And really, I hope others are watching this and seeing it, and companies like this, large public companies that are dramatically increasing their results through technology, and we can adopt that more across the region as well. So.
Excellent, Mike. Any final words?
Look, I think we're all very proud of being in Europe. We have incredible companies, we have incredible talent, we have some of the most amazing universities in the world. Even here in Paris today, a lot of the innovation is coming out of Paris in Europe too. So I'm really excited for, also for enterprises as well to partner, go and talk to the startups, talk to the talent, understand what they're building, and give them a chance to deploy their technology in your company as well, and see the results. So really excited for the future of everything that's happening in Europe, and I hope people will take the plunge and jump in and be aggressive on deploying this technology as quickly as possible across the region, so we can keep up and get to our potential.
Yeah, and just to say, Mike, CoreWeave, some of the largest, most significant AI projects in the world run and delivered by CoreWeave. We're delighted, proud that you've made the investments and the commitment that you have to Europe in the last few years. So thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.